House resumes, and I think we winding up now. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this budget debate encompassed some of the high points and some of the lowest points of my parliamentary career. Madam Speaker, I was reflecting last evening that this is my 16th year in this parliament. And therefore I thought as of yesterday morning that I had perhaps heard it all and seen it all. I was sure, Madam Speaker, that there was nothing about parliamentary life in Dominica that would shock me. But I was so very wrong. But first, Madam Speaker, I would like to congratulate the members on the government side of the House for what I consider, collectively, was the best manifestation of research and clarity of thought that I have seen in this House over the years. I thank my colleagues for their positive and enthusiastic support of the budget. I congratulate each and every one of them for their individual approaches to the debate and the depth of the research and preparation that they clearly underwent in the lead up to and during the last 3 days. Madam Speaker, experience has taught me that no matter how well you prepare, the actual task of standing before this House and speaking is always challenging, even to veteran politicians, far less relative newcomers. That is why, as leader of the government side in Parliament, and also leader of the ruling Dominica Labour Party, I made it my duty to sit and remain in this House to support and urge on speakers on this side, because I know how nervous and intimidating speaking in this House and before national radio and television can be. So I congratulate my colleagues on this side for the quality of the presentation and for the unconditional support of the budget presented to this Honourable House on Tuesday. I, Madam Speaker, was absolutely impressed with every single one of the government side. And I have received numerous text messages from far and wide, Madam Speaker, of commendation for all of you. And I want to convey those commendations here publicly to yourselves. By the same token, Madam Speaker, I wish to applaud honourable members on the other side of this House for making it through the debate under very difficult and challenging circumstances. I have followed debates, Madam Speaker, in the British Parliament and elsewhere in the Commonwealth, and I know it is not easy to respond to a generally popular and well-received budget, Madam Speaker. The package as presented on Tuesday contained no new taxes, no new levies. Indeed, it was a painless budget. The budget was far-reaching in respect of its potential positive impact on the social and economic life of Dominica. And in that regard, it must have been difficult for an opposition party in general, and the opposition parliamentarians in particular, to stand for 30 minutes and try to be objective and well-meaning in criticizing this year's budget. Somehow there appears to be a culture in this country that the role and purpose of an opposition is to oppose. So I understand very well why some members, though clearly not speaking from conviction, found it necessary to tinker here and tinker there with aspects of a budget that has clearly been embraced by the wider public. So, Madam Speaker, I understand why some of the members on the other side said some of the things they said, even though I do not agree with them. Again, I believe their concerns and criticisms were dealt with most ably by my members on this side, and I do not propose in this wrap-up presentation to dissect every single intervention made by members of the opposition. Their points or non-points were, to my mind, completely debated by ministers of government and other power reps on this side of the House. So, Madam Speaker, overall, those were the high points of the debate, and in general, I thought members on both sides equipped themselves quite satisfactorily, given that we did not have the customary lengthy break between the budget speech and the official reply and ensuing debate. Now, Madam Speaker, I sympathize and empathize with the honourable member for the Salisbury constituency on two fronts. Firstly, this must have been a very difficult week with the burial of his dear mom. Again, I offer my sincere condolences to the honourable member. But on the second front, the honourable member for Salisbury has, to my mind, held a record. He has had the distinction in this House of having delivered the worst imaginable budget presentation in the history of Parliament. I personally had ascribed to him the distinction of delivering the worst budget replies in the history of this Parliament. And he has held that record grudgingly for several years. And I was considered, given the ever-increasing level of literacy in Dominica and the number of students now exposed to tertiary level education, I was convinced that there was no chance of that record ever being broken. But, Madam Speaker, the apparent dream was shattered. And his record of worst possible replies to a budget was shockingly broken last Wednesday morning. By that time, Madam Speaker, the Honourable Member Marigot had taken his seat. Madam Speaker, I hereby declare that there is a new worst budget reply champion in Dominica. The honourable member for the Marigot constituency now wears the championship belt. I still do not know or understand what went wrong on Wednesday morning, but this House and this country are still in shock and still in need of a serious budget reply. As a matter of fact, Madam Speaker, during this presentation, he skipped more than 20 pages of his speech. More than 20 pages, Madam Speaker. But, Madam Speaker, the Senator, the Minister of Public Works, I believe, came the closest to describing the leader of the opposition's budget reply. That there was no relevance in his reply, Madam Speaker, to the 2016-2007 budget presented by the government of Dominica. How could, Madam Speaker, a Prime Minister in waiting be so callous and indifferent to the phenomenal changes that have been proposed and espoused for and on behalf of seniors in this country? The geographical and demographic makeup of his Marigot constituency, Madam Speaker, suggests that its residents would benefit as much, perhaps even more than any other constituency in Dominica, from the social reform measures outlined in the budget. I was not expecting him to enthusiastically embrace them, but certainly he could have analyzed them more clinically and share in the joy of hundreds of his constituents, some of whom will have their monthly incomes move from $55 a month to $300 a month. He appeared completely indifferent to the measures presented to the Parliament that would benefit the seniors of this country. Sadly for them, Madam Speaker, politics is about arithmetic. It's about numbers. It's not about people. It's not about how people are living. It is not about how people are going about their daily lives. It's not about the single mothers who are struggling to take care of their children. It is all about arithmetic for them and numbers. So their presentation, Madam Speaker, in the House reflected that view and position of the opposition in Dominica. Because I have said repeatedly, Madam Speaker, in this House and elsewhere, that politics is about people. You have to love and care for people to be in public life. There's no running away from this, Madam Speaker. There must be an intrinsic desire on the part of persons in public life to want to help people, to listen to people's concerns and their cries and their aspirations and their dreams, and to see what you can do to help them realize their dreams and aspirations and treat to the challenges. When I left this parliament last night, Madam Speaker, and early this morning, I had to be personally involved in getting 16,000 euros to send a young child out to Dominica. Otherwise, the parents are saying and doctors are saying, if this child doesn't get these monies and to get the child out, the child will die. But these guys don't care about this, Madam Speaker. The opposition don't care about the slaves. And they have come here repeatedly and in the public domain and criticized the public service program. The leader of the opposition has said that if he comes into office, he would stop it. In the recent by-election campaign, he told the people of the Sofia constituency that they must work if they want to get help. They must work. By the sweat of thy brow thou shalt eat bread. Obviously, completely misunderstanding this biblical quotation, but using it to push and pander his own view about life and people. So they did not support any of the measures, Madam Speaker. They came here and justify why there are several children in Dominica who are growing up without the material and emotional support from their fathers. Purely to play politics. But yet still they say they care about children. Let's protect our children. Let's wear purple. Let's change the party color from blue to purple. Because they care so much about children. And when you bring measures to the House, the highest authority in the land, where men and women, members of parliament, can express themselves and share in their views as to how best we can care for our children, they oppose those measures. Our measure to help the children of Dominica, the people who can't defend themselves, the voiceless. Our children are voiceless. They came here and did not support, Madam Speaker, the single mothers, with the measure to set up the pilot health insurance scheme, putting aside $5 million to assist these families, to cover 80% of the medical bills. So some of us have insurance, medical insurance, Madam Speaker, but it's not because I have medical insurance I should not be bothered about the rest of the country. Because for many families, Madam Speaker, they do not have medical insurance. But that is not interested. They're not interested in this, Madam Speaker. They have a difficulty in seeing people, ordinary people, Madam Speaker, move up the ladder. There's a certain envy about people who are successful by the opposition. There's a certain envy of people who need help and are receiving help. But here it is, Madam Speaker, the leader of the opposition will say to the people of Dominica that by the sweat of thy brow thou shalt eat bread. But he goes and misbehaves in the public domain and then goes to the same so-called poor people and beg them for their money. How can you, Madam Speaker, go to somebody's home, see the condition of the person, and then instead you bring something for them, you are taking from them, Madam Speaker? And you saw their behavior tonight. It was orchestrated, it was pre-planned. It wasn't spontaneous, Madam Speaker. That's their modus operandi, that's how they operate. It's nothing new. Nothing new, Madam Speaker. So, they're annoyed about the government moving ahead with its social revolution. addressing issues of housing and the needs of our people, Madam Speaker. They came here, Madam Speaker, believing that the government would have used Tropical Storm Erica and not do anything constructive. And say, well, we don't have money, we can't do anything for you, cuts, taxes, we have to cut this, no that. But here it is, less than 1 year after a devastating storm. Any other country, Madam Speaker, big or small, economy size, would have been conservative in its spending. It is not that we do not need the $15 million that we gave to the tourism people. It is not that the Minister of Finance has no use for the $10 million which we gave to the farmers. But we believe that this is the time when the government should demonstrate confidence and trust in our people, Madam Speaker, and put it in their hands part of the responsibility to build a more resilient Dominica. And the engagement with the tourism people, the engagement with the farmers was extraordinary, Madam Speaker. We went to them as a government, as a cabinet, Madam Speaker, to the tourism people. We asked them, who among you need help? And how much help do you need? They responded. We went back to them, Madam Speaker, and asked them, what are the conditions you believe the government should impose on that particular facility? And we accepted, Madam Speaker, more than 95% of the recommendations that came from the tourism people themselves as to the conditions the government should place on these loans. There's nowhere in the world a lender will ask you what conditions, what interest rate, what grace period you want, Madam Speaker. And this is part of our democracy. This is what engaging people means, Madam Speaker, in a constructive manner. And we would say publicly, Madam Speaker, because I met with them, Madam Speaker, and some of them who do not support the government. But for us, that is besides the point. These are people who have invested, and I can mention, Madam Speaker, I went to his place, Simsies. I went to his place, Madam Speaker, and went sat down with him for several hours, giving him ideas, along with the Minister for Tourism and the Member of Parliament for the Rosa Valley, and advising him on how he can benefit from this facility, and what are the changes he should make. That's what we did. And that's what we do, Madam Speaker. And, Madam Speaker, they come in and talk about farmers, how they love farmers. The government should do this and that for farmers, Madam Speaker. And not one of them highlighted the $10 million, Madam Speaker, for the farming community. They never said to the government, good job. The farmers will like it, Madam Speaker, and to thank the government on behalf of the farmers. They said nothing about it, Madam Speaker. Nothing whatsoever. And the member of Salisbury, the member of Marigot, many of their constituents will benefit, Madam Speaker, because they're farming communities. They're farming communities, Madam Speaker. But they said nothing about it, Madam Speaker. And there are people in Dominica who voted for them. A few because they do not like me for one reason or the other. But that cannot be a reason to want to put Honorable Lennox Linton as Prime Minister of Dominica, Madam Speaker. When you know for a fact that he is not suitable, Madam Speaker, in any of the compartments and the departments and the characteristics required to be a leader of the country, Madam Speaker. Because, Madam Speaker, when you're in this position, Madam Speaker, leadership is important. But also equally important, Madam Speaker, is your judgment, Madam Speaker. Because you're not making decisions for yourself. You are making decisions, Madam Speaker, as Prime Minister of the country that can impact on thousands of people, Madam Speaker. And therefore, Your judgment must be critical. And I said earlier, Madam Speaker, how can you be the leader of the opposition, Madam Speaker? The budget is going on. And you absent yourself, Madam Speaker, to go on a match and have your members speaking while the match is going on, Madam Speaker. And I can tell you, Madam Speaker, I did some research to find out where in the Caribbean, where in the Commonwealth, where in Africa this has ever happened. And I couldn't find anywhere, Madam Speaker, where the budget debate, that's what is going to define the country for the next 12 months. Every sphere of the society is going to be impacted upon by this budget, Madam Speaker. And they're not there. The leader of the opposition, Madam Speaker, left. Now, Madam Speaker, they're excused. There are good reason why someone can miss Parliament. You wake up in the morning, Madam Speaker, you have a terrible headache. Some people may be suffering from migraine. You may have a death in your family, as we saw the case of the member for Salisbury, Madam Speaker. A family emergency. Your child's first graduation from school. Something like that. An illness in the family. But you cannot leave the Parliament and go walking around Roseau with a baseball cap on your T-shirt and a pushing in your foot, Madam Speaker, when the Parliament is going on. Now, Madam Speaker, this may sound as a joke and something to laugh about, but it's a serious matter, Madam Speaker. Because this is the highest authority in the land. The legislature, Madam Speaker. The legislature. That's where laws are made. When the budget estimates go into committee stage and it comes out of committee stage, Madam Speaker, it becomes law. If by some reason, Madam Speaker, some members of the government side decide they're going to vote against the budget and we don't have the numbers, it can't pass. And what happens? You have to go back for the whole process again, Madam Speaker. So it's a critical time. I mean, this is not a scout troop, Madam Speaker. This is not a domino club. This is the Parliament. So here it is, Madam Speaker, the judgment of the leader of the opposition, Madam Speaker, comes into question again. Another thing he did, Madam Speaker, during the debate, during his presentation, or what he called a presentation, Madam Speaker, he attacked the integrity of the public servants. Now, Madam Speaker, we are politicians and...
Your time is up. Sorry.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the Honourable Prime Minister be given an additional 30 minutes to conclude on the budget debate.
3-0? 13.
3-0.
Okay.
Second, Madam Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that the Honourable Prime Minister be given a further 30 minutes to complete his reply. Those in favour? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. Continue, please.
Madam Speaker, I was saying that in his so-called budget reply, Madam Speaker, the leader of the opposition, in speaking about the CBI, imputed improper motives against the public servants. Now, Madam Speaker, these public servants do not have the ability to defend themselves publicly. And it is manifestly unfair, Madam Speaker, for anybody in the leadership of this country and to use parliamentary privilege, Madam Speaker, to come and attack the public servants of this country, Madam Speaker. Now, you can attack me, you can attack Reggie, you can attack the Minister for Housing, Madam Speaker. We may have an opportunity and ability to respond. But I have every confidence, Madam Speaker, professionally, personally, and otherwise, in the fiduciary ethics of the Financial Secretary of Dominica, Madam Speaker. And I have every professional trust and confidence in the fiduciary ethics, Madam Speaker, of the Accountant General of Dominica. And when I talk about the CBI, Madam Speaker, it is under this administration, because the leader of the opposition likes to refer people to 1995 and 2000 when it suits them. And when it doesn't suit them, they tell us, well, why are we going so far? But during the European time, Madam Speaker, the Accountant General had no part to play in the funds which were generated by the Economic Synergy Program. That was between, at the time, the IBU, or whatever it was called, Madam Speaker, International Business Unit, and the ministers directly. Entrenched civil servants, as recognized by the establishment, Madam Speaker, were not involved in it at all. And this government has been the most transparent government since 1993 in respect to CBI. The most transparent. And they were totally flabbergasted, totally dumbfounded, Madam Speaker, by the extent of the reporting of the government on the CBI, Madam Speaker. When we came here in 2015 to present the budget address, Dr. Thompson Fontaine and Mr. Linton, Honorable Lux Linton, called us lazy and referred us to other countries who were raising hundreds of millions of dollars in the CBI. They told us we did not know what you were about. And they said we could never raise $80 million in the financial year, Madam Speaker. It's in the hands that we can go and read it, those of us in the public. So they came with a budget presentation reply, hoping that all we have said is that we raised $15 million from the CBI, Madam Speaker. So that's why when I was presenting the budget, Madam Speaker, you could see the shock in their faces, Madam Speaker. You could see that they were mesmerized, Madam Speaker, because they came here with a preconceived idea or notion in their minds, that which the Minister of Finance was going to present. But this is a government that consults with people. This is a government that listens to people. This is a government that is on the ground, Madam Speaker. And those measures in the budget address reflected that which the people of Dominica are telling us they aspire to, Madam. So, Madam Speaker, I give you the assurances, Madam Speaker, that by next week, God's willing, we shall transfer this $25 million to the aid bank. $10, $15 for the hotel people, and $10 for the farmers, Madam Speaker. And they spoke here about the abattoir. Instead of this guy saying, well, gentlemen, how can we work together to make it work, to make it successful? They're hoping and praying by the utterances, Madam Speaker, for it to fail. For it to fail. And they come in the same breath, Madam Speaker, speak about the trade deficit. But what is the trade deficit, Madam Speaker? If what we're trying to do is not to reduce on the trade deficit, then what it is? When over $18 million of our money go out to the United States and Brazil every year. And what we're seeking to do is to reduce on that. And of course, Madam Speaker, a small country like Dominica, where you have to import the wire to make the cages, you have to import the wood, you have to import the nails, you have to import the waterers, you have to import the feeders, you have to import the vitamins to get the chicken, Madam Speaker, you have to import the feed. You have to import the chicks, Madam Speaker. Of course you expect there. And if a small consumption market, you expect the price to be a little bit higher than competing for a country with over 100 million people. With labor a fraction of the cost of Dominica. So all we're saying to Dominica, you will have to pay a little bit higher, a little bit more for the local chicken, Madam Speaker. But with a better quality, Madam Speaker. With a better quality. I can tell you, Madam Speaker, that I have placed a ban on the consumption of imported chicken at my home. No imported chicken. We have to support local, Madam Speaker. Because that's the only way we can survive. That's why when you see me drinking water in the public, Madam Speaker, you see me for Lubia bottled water. And it is a deliberate decision on my part to support the local manufacturers. And if each of us were to do the same in our household, then the $18 million we're exporting out of Dominica, we're repatriating out of Dominica, we're sending out of Dominica, would remain and create sustainable jobs in Dominica, particularly in rural Dominica, Madam Speaker. And then they criticize us by saying or inviting the private sector to partner with us. Here it is, Madam Speaker. We have built the abattoir for over $10 million. And all we're saying to the private sector entities, look, the infrastructure. And I can even say public, Madam Speaker, the government in its discussion would also provide a limited amount of financial support in initial years to the private sector entity to allow them to be able to get on their feet. And the facility will be given to them at a peppercorn rate, Madam Speaker. And here's a sure market. That there'll be even affirmative action on the part of the government. That whenever the government is doing any catering or the government, the hospital, and also buying local chicken, we must buy it from this farm, from this abattoir. So here's an opportunity for the young people who are going to study in marketing, in finance, in accounting. I believe there are an increasing number of vets coming back to Dominica. Why can't they put themselves together and create a company and forward a proposal to the government to manage the abattoir, Madam Speaker? They came here and when they heard the Minister for Health, Dr. Daru, and Honorable Austrian, Honorable Blackmon, others speak about the resettlement of the people of Jubik, Madam Speaker. They were hoping that this was not true, Madam Speaker. But this is an extraordinary achievement on any government, Madam Speaker. A small country, limited resources, financial resources, faced with a catastrophic situation, Madam Speaker. We didn't go and hide under a table. We roll up our sleeves, and every one of his ministers you see here, Madam Speaker, and the members of Parliament have been working extremely hard, night and day, Madam Speaker, to bring relief to those who have been impacted by Tropical Storm Erica. And to put 152 people in homes in such a short period of time, Madam Speaker. And Dr. Darrell mentioned that the countries where storms were affected 10 years ago, and people are still homeless and displaced. We should be celebrating those things. But instead, again, Madam Speaker, the opposition and the leader of the opposition cares about no one. And you can see, Madam Speaker, within the opposition, the disarray in which they are in. Not one of them, to my memory, Madam Speaker, not one made reference to the presentation by the leader, Madam Speaker. Not one. Not one said, Madam Speaker, according to the leader of the opposition, based on what he said, Madam Speaker, in light of the point raised by the leader of opposition, Madam Speaker, when the leader of opposition spoke, he said so and so. Not one person, Madam Speaker, they all said, Madam Speaker, they all said, especially the member for Rosa Central said, I am speaking on my own. I am speaking on my own. I don't know what the others said, I'm speaking for myself. So there was no cohesion. The United Workers' Party in opposition did not present a coherent response to the budget of the Dominica Labour Party government, Madam Speaker. And they talk about not having enough time. But what time do you need if you believe that the government is a waste of time? What time do you need if you have all the ideas as to how you can fix Dominica? You don't need any time. You don't bother us with what Carrot says, Madam Speaker. You have your ideas. So put your ideas together. If you want to start from June last year, start from June last year. And then he goes out there and says that scary things, by giving him 1 day to respond, he will fall flat on his bottom, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the man fall straight on his face, Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker. The man fall flat on his face, Madam Speaker, because he made a total mockery of himself. And this has nothing to do with not finishing high school, Madam Speaker. It has to do with a lack of understanding, a lack of comprehension, a lack of love for people, and a attitude, Madam Speaker, that is not befitting the Parliament of Dominica or any parliament anywhere in the world, Madam Speaker. And he spoke about correspondent banking. Clearly, somebody write that for him, Madam Speaker. And people write things for you, but you have to be able to understand that which has been written. Comprehend it, understand it. He read the stuff, Madam Speaker, and he says to me, Guyana has its own currency, Jamaica has its own currency, Barbados has its own currency, Trinidad has its own currency, the OECS has its own. So why are you not working alone with the OECS and not about them? Not understand, Madam Speaker, correspondent banking has nothing to do with your domestic currency. Correspondent. Corresponding. To correspond, Madam Speaker. I find for a man who was a journalist, who used to read news, ought to be more knowledgeable than that. Because a journalist must do research. He must read. He must interpret. He must comprehend. But I guess, Madam Speaker, all he used to do was to read the news, not to put together, Madam Speaker. And I said to people before the budget debate that if he gets a document that gets it weeks in advance, he can read well. But anytime you give Mr. Linton anything to read now for now, or yesterday for today, he's going to make a mess out of it. And don't even talk about, Madam Speaker, standing on his 2 feet with nothing behind in front of Madam Speaker. And in the field of diplomacy, Madam Speaker, in government, Madam Speaker, you must be able to speak on your feet at times. But there's nothing in there. And what they always do, Madam Speaker, is that when they want to go and do other things they find to be more important, they find a reason to go. Because, serious, Madam Speaker, I saw nothing that Mr. Austri said, the Minister for Housing said, Honorable Minister for Housing said, Madam Speaker, that would have caused Mr. Linton to get so angry and to disrespect the chair. And sometimes people out in the public believe that the Speaker is not interpreting the rules properly. The Speaker is wrong. But look at the behavior of this gentleman. There are times the Speaker has asked me to withdraw something, and you simply withdraw it. And there are times I may think, well, I don't think the Speaker is right, but the Speaker rules. The Speaker rules. When you go in the courts, when the judge tells you to sit down, when the judge tells you to stop talking, and you continue to talk, or you remain standing, he will call the police and send you in the cells. And he will call a case right there and send you up, remand you. As a matter of fact, Madam Speaker, the courts even go further. If you are to appear before the courts and you don't show up, they give you a bench warrant, Madam Speaker. They find you where you are a few days before the case, and they put you in the cell until the date of the case, and they bring you straight. That's the extent to which the court goes. So you can agree or disagree with the judge as much as you want, but his judgment you have to respect. A football match, Madam Speaker, there are two sides, but there's a referee. There are clear rules. If the referee says you have committed a foul, the referee says you have committed a foul. You have to respect it, or else you get a green card, a yellow card, or a red card, Madam Speaker. He'll give you a warning, or he'll send you off completely for the rest of the match. So, Madam Speaker, I am very pleased with the budget, but more so the response of the people in the public, Madam Speaker. I feel, there is a sigh of relief because people are satisfied. And what they're saying, Madam Speaker, is how has this government been able to do this in the face of this colossal disaster, Madam Speaker? And when we recognized that the CBI was going to be very important to us, the government embarked on a massive promotion drive, Madam Speaker, with technical officers and ministers of government going across the country promoting Dominica and promoting our program. Madam Speaker, on one trip, I went to 4 countries and 5 cities in 3 days, Madam Speaker, promoting this program. 4 cities, 4 countries, and 5 cities in 3 days promoting the program, Madam Speaker. We are doing that as part of our contribution to the well-being of Dominica. Because if you're unable to raise revenue from non-tax sources, Madam Speaker, and you need things to be done, like the reconstruction of Dominica, you need to raise money in the non-tax revenue areas because you're going to have to increase taxes, borrow money, Madam Speaker. And who is going to pay back the money? The taxpaying public. And instead, these guys come here and commend the government, Madam Speaker. Sorry, Madam Speaker. Instead, the opposition comes here and commend the government. They're seeking now to cast aspersions, Madam Speaker. Talking about the account which we have at the bank is illegal, contrary to Section 76 of the Constitution. We believe the way that we have structured the CBI is the best mechanism for the transparent accounting of the resources that come in and the resources which go out of the program, Madam Speaker. But they will not, their negative attacks on Dominica will not done to our commitment to our country. And when I heard Dr. Thompson Fountain come in and speak about how he loved Dominica and he wants to see Dominica prosper and so forth, I have never read any positive article or any positive pronouncement by Dr. Thompson Fountain about Dominica, Madam Speaker. everything he says about Dominica is to denigrate our country, to besmirch the goodness of Dominica, and to deny Dominicans a better opportunity of life, Madam Speaker. And he came here, Madam Speaker, and they talk about lies. When he said here in Parliament today that he worked in St. Kitts with Dr. Douglas, Madam Speaker, I called Dr. Douglas today to find out whether he knows Dr. Thompson Fontaine. And Dr. Douglas told me he has never met this man. This man was nowhere in St. Kitts in 2012, Madam Speaker. And all of the years he spent in IMF, Madam Speaker, the same position he came into the IMF is at the same position he left 7 years later. There was never no promotion for him at the IMF. Never. The IMF fired him, Madam Speaker. So all the economic guru you are, with all of the world going through a crisis since 2008, and not one government that has called you to give them advice. And then you have a friend in Kuwait or Qatar or Fallujah who sends you a fictitious letter offering you a job. And the only person who has access, and you show him something and say, look a letter I have. So all of these countries you've gone through, and Madam Speaker, I have met several IMF heads of delegation, Madam Speaker, both at the domestic and regional level, Madam Speaker. I have been to the headquarters IMF to meet the managing director there. And Ms. Dr. Thompson Fontaine is not at the level to have led any team into any country, anywhere in the world on behalf of the IMF, Madam Speaker. He was not at the level. You have to be a senior person in the IMF to go to lead any delegation. You can come with somebody. You can come with a team. But Ms. Dr. Thompson Fontaine never led any delegation to go in Niger. The man say to Afghanistan, you know. The man say, right? So he gives you country that you cannot go and find out the issue. But he made a mistake and he just sent kids. You see what I'm saying? I have no contact with Mohammed Karzai no longer. There was the guy, you know. I mean, Ghani, President Ghani. So and Madam Speaker, and at the time he would have gone to, based on when he was working in the IMF, the time he would have gone to Afghanistan when the Taliban went government, you know. If you really look at it, Madam Speaker, when the Taliban were leading Afghanistan, that's when Thompson Fontaine said he went to Afghanistan on the IMF. That's the time. You see what I'm saying? So you have not been you're IMF man. You lost your job just after the world crisis started.
You have 2 minutes left.
Yeah, Madam Speaker, that's okay. Just after the world crisis started, Madam Speaker. You know what I'm saying? And you have not gotten a job. And you have all these qualifications. The truth is, Madam Speaker, I have never been in the business to begrudge anybody of their accomplishments, Madam Speaker. As a matter of fact, if you see what we have done since 2000 in government, is to help people achieve their dreams and aspirations. Because we want to see everybody succeed. That's why we created the State College. That's why, notwithstanding our difficulties, we continue to spend millions of dollars educating our children overseas. That's why we've gone out to negotiate bilateral scholarships with friendly governments and universities across the United States. But when you listen, any objective person, forget about politics, forget you're red, forget you're blue, Madam Speaker, forget you're an independent, and reflect on all the public utterances of Dr. Thompson Fontaine, and tell me if it's somebody you've been impressed with, Madam Speaker. I thought he would have come and spent his 30 minutes, and Madam Speaker, I can say publicly that I was prepared to give him an extra 20 minutes. I was hoping that he would have articulated some economic theory. Interpret the numbers, lecture us, Madam Speaker, lecture the country. Speak about the global economy. Speak about, from an economic standpoint, a simulation exercise that he has conducted on the impact of Brexit on the Caribbean economy. Tell me about what impact the increasing number of terrorist actions will have on the global economy. Interpret the U.S. elections and tell me if the Republicans, if Mr. Trump were to win or Mrs. Clinton were to win, what would happen? Tell us about the risking. You say you are a monetary expert. You did a groundbreaking thesis on monetary issues. Tell us. Give us an indication as to how long the pound will continue to fall. Tell us when you believe that the euro will stabilize. Tell us those things. But, alas, Madam Speaker, I have not heard anything that I could write down from Dr. Thompson Fountain. And, Madam Speaker, unfortunately, Madam Speaker, Linton, something I'll be happy for that, because it makes him look very bright, Madam Speaker. It almost justifies why he should have left school at fourth form rather than waste money and go to university, Madam Speaker. When people like Dr. Thompson Fountain speaks on an issue, Madam Speaker. And the member for Royal Central, Madam Speaker, finally, he has in his head, he's hearing voices, that he's bright, he's the smartest in the team, and that he wants to be leader, and he comes here, busy, sweaty, Madam Speaker, unable to complete a sentence, unable to complete a point, disjointed, trying to upstage Mr. Linton to make him look like as if, he's apolitical and this thing, and he's forward country and so forth. But before you want to fix somebody else, fix yourself, brother. Fix yourself. These guys have all kind of ideas. What they would do, how they would do it, when they would do it, where they would do it. And when they have an opportunity, Madam Speaker, to take one grain of plantain, Madam Speaker, and slice it and fry it, Madam Speaker, they can't fry it. But they want to run Dominica. And Madam Speaker, I want to thank you. I know it's been as a speaker you have to be there all the time. We can walk out and walk in sometimes, but you have to sit there. So I thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And I want to thank my colleagues there to say, I give you a blows privately, and sometimes I do give you a blows publicly sometimes, especially at the party conferences. But I must say, Madam Speaker, I am absolutely and totally pleased with the contribution of all of you, every one of you, from the Belarusian voice of Senator Regis to the softer voice of the Senator Beno, Madam Speaker. All of you did a fantastic job, and I believe the country is now recognizing completely and absolutely that they made the right decision in December 2014. And I want to thank the several people who voted for the Workers' Party who have been meeting me and who have been communicating with me, expressing their apologies, Madam Speaker, their regret for having espoused confidence and trust in Mr. Linton and the United Workers' Party. And they have said to me, Madam Speaker, and some of them have been manifesting that support publicly, Madam Speaker, that they have made an error and their support is fully with the Dominica Labour Party, Madam Speaker. Because that is the only organized party. That is a party which have men and women who truly care for the people of Dominica. And Madam Speaker, we are an absolutely united team, united to advance the development of Dominica. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
This concludes the debate on the estimates. The estimates shall now be referred to a committee of the whole House and in committee we don't carry the proceedings live. House resumes, and I have to report that the estimates have passed through the Committee of Supply without any amendment. The question is that the estimates for $680,798,190 be approved. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it.
Madam Speaker, I move that the bill shortly entitled 2016-2017 Appropriation Act 2016 be read a first time.
Seconded, Madam Speaker.
2016-2017 Appropriation Act 2016.
The bill has been read a first time.
Madam Speaker, I move the second reading of the bill shortly entitled 2016-2017 Appropriation Act 2016.
Seconded.
The bill will now be read a second time.
(2016-2017 Appropriation Act 2016).
The bill will now be. Wait a while, what did I have to say now? Just a minute. Wait. I cannot see. Yes. The bill will now stand committed to a committee of the whole House to be considered clause by clause. House resumes. And I have to report that the bill shortly entitled the 2016-2017 Appropriation Act of 2016 passed to the committee stage without amendments. The question is that the report of the committee on the bill be adopted. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it.
Speaker, I move that the bill shortly entitled 2016-2017 Appropriation Act 2016 be read a third time and passed.
Seconded, Madam Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that the bill shortly entitled the 2016 Appropriation Act 2016 be read a third time and passed. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it.
Two 2016-2017 Appropriation Act 2016.
The bill has been read a third time and passed accordingly.
Authorization for overdraft. Whereas by virtue of Section 3.1 of the Loans Act, Chapter 6405 of the 1990 revised laws of the Commonwealth of Dominica, the House of Assembly may by resolution duly passed authorize the minister responsible for finance to borrow money from the approved sources or guarantee loans to statutory boards or public corporations for the purpose of financing general development purposes or for other purposes. And whereas in accordance with Section 36(1) of the Finance Administration Act No. 4 of 1994, the power conferred by the Loans Act to borrow money by means of advances from a bank may be exercised by means of a fluctuating overdraft. And whereas a sum not exceeding 31,500,000 EC dollars is required to meet central government's current overdraft requirements, and B, a sum not exceeding 5 million EC dollars is required to meet guarantee of overdrafts to statutory boards and public corporations. Be it resolved that in accordance with Section 3.1 of the Loans Act, Chapter 6405 of the 1990 revised laws of the Commonwealth of Dominica, this Honorable House authorizes the Minister for Finance to borrow and guarantee by means of fluctuating overdraft a sum not exceeding in the aggregate 36,500,000 EC dollars from A, First Caribbean International Bank, B, National Bank of Dominica, C, Royal Bank of Canada, and or D, any other approved financial institution, to meet central government's current overdraft requirements and to guarantee overdrafts to statutory and public corporations for a further period of 1 year, commencing from 1st day of July 2016. Madam Speaker, before this Honorable House seeks Parliament to meet the government's short-term finance. Section 36(1) of the Finance Administration Act No. 4 of 1994 specifies that the Minister of Finance may borrow by means of a fluctuating overdraft to finance government. The motion before the House seeks Parliament's approval for use of an overdraft facility with commercial banks in a common 5 million EC dollars. Madam Speaker, as customary, term cash flow requirements. One of these is the overdraft. The government will endeavor to keep this form of borrowing to a minimum since it is a more costly form of financing. The government has put in place financial management and accountability measures, which are expected to generate growth in revenue and improved efficiency in spending. This allows for as was experienced with Tropical Storm, therefore have access to emergency resources commitments. Madam Speaker, as well as an additional these amounts have not changed from the previous fiscal of 36. Recommend the House for its approval. Thank you.
The motion is it's a motion.
Oh, Madam Speaker, the hard-working Sergeant at Arms, we shall leave very soon.
Resolved that in accordance with Section 3.1 of the Loans Act, Chapter 6405 of the 1990 Revised Laws of the Commonwealth of Dominica, this Honorable House authorizes the Minister for Finance to borrow and guarantee a sum not exceeding in the aggregate 36,500,000 Dominica, Canada, other current overdraft for a further period of 1 year commencing from the first day of July 2000. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes.
Appointment of committees.
Madam Speaker, I will give the government side's recommendations, and the Speaker, the clerk will treat you with the other members.
Okay, as you wish.
Yeah, sure. With regards to the Standing Orders Committee, the Honorable Alex Boyd Knight's Speaker, as required, mandatory as chairperson. The government's nominee on this board, on this committee, Madam Speaker, are Honorable Dr. Kenneth Darrow and Honorable Ivor Stevenson. In respect to the Public Accounts Committee, the government's nominees on this committee are Senator the Honorable Edward Regis and Senator the Honorable Josiah Binwa. In respect to the Privileges Committee, the chairperson, as mandated by the Standing Order, Honorable Alex Boyd Knight, Speaker, as the chairperson. We have Honorable Dr. Colin McIntyre as a member, and Honorable Dennis Charles as the government's order nominee.
You know, they forgot one. I had told them, so you know.
Is there another one?
Yes, they forgot it. It is the Broadcast Committee.
Broadcast Committee.
You remember I told you all to... Just, we can do that after, you know, we don't... Yes, okay. Okay. Before we take the adjournment, I'd like to, first of all, thank the security, the police officers and other police attending to the Parliament. I think they did an exceptional job. And I would have to, I think Inspector Coffey has been in charge of it all. And of course my Sergeant at Arms, always very helpful and keeping me on my toes to be in the chamber on time, our Sergeant at Arms. The media, that is to say GIS and those helping GIS to bring the proceedings live, either by radio, television, or streamed on the internet, gavel to gavel. And so I would like to thank them as well. Of course, when we have our budget address, we always have His Excellency coming in to give his address, and of course we will be writing to thank him as has been requested by the Honorable Prime Minister. And of course we do all the lovely flowers, and so we have to thank Mrs. Fadell for assisting us in that regard. I don't know how much you all know the amount of work that goes into planning the budget meeting. The particular thing giving us a headache is getting the notices out on time, and also sitting those persons who tell us to come, or chasing down people and asking them if they're coming, chasing down the members and asking them who are the two people or the one person that they're bringing. And so the staff, led by our acting clerk, Mr. James, have done an admirable job there. Miss Roll, Miss Belleville, Boston, and of course the place wouldn't look as good if it weren't for the cleaners. And if you notice, our yard is looking especially spruced up thanks to our gardener, Simon. So it's a collaborative effort getting this quote-unquote show on the road. And so there are many people to be thanked. I want to thank the members for their cooperation, our caterer, and I want to let you know that I specially requested that our caterer use local chicken, and she obliged. And so, as we come to the end of another budget session, I want to thank everybody again for helping me to do what is necessary to bring off this meeting. Our cameraman? Huh? The stenographers, oh yes, my goodness, how could I? You see, they're out of my view. I do apologize. And I must tell you that when we request our transcripts so that we can be accurate in our minutes, they really help us to get that going. So all in all, thank you very much. And Mr. Labad, who sits there, taking his little snooze from time to time, but nevertheless on the ball doing what he has to do. So everybody has been very helpful, and I thank all of you again. And I'm waiting now for our Prime Minister to bring the proceedings to a close.
I too, on behalf of the government side, want to express our thanks to yourself as the person in charge of the House and making all the arrangements, because all we do is send you documents. The rest is left to you in terms of delivering them to the addressees on time and in time, and putting all the preparatory work to have the Parliament meet, especially during the time of the budget, when it becomes a grander event. So I want to thank you for your continued leadership, both administratively and presiding over the House. I mean, it's never an easy task. Referees always have challenges, umpires. Once you have to adjudicate, then you will have a difficulty with some people who may feel aggrieved our particular decision. But the rules are clear. The rules, there is a governing framework within the House, and that has been with us throughout our parliamentary democracy. So I really want to thank you. I also want to thank the acting clerk of the House, who has been very detailed with his guidance to all of us who speak in terms of presenting papers, and to your hardworking staff. Those who we do not see, but we can see their work and the quality of their work too. And of course, the stenographers. You know, this is not an easy task. Some of us will speak very quickly, others will speak very soft, and then you have to be able to keep up with those of us who speak quickly, and you have to have an extra hearing for those of us who don't speak loudly. But I want to say to you publicly that as the minister responsible for the stenographic department, I intend to limit the use of stenographers in the wider public service. I find that you're used too widely. That you should limit yourself to particular responsibilities, because we have to ensure that not only we can have the meetings stenotyped, but we need to give time for them to be transcribed, and that's important as well. So I will be your lobbyist in the next few days, and I see the Secretary of Cabinet has taken note of that public admonition on behalf of the stenographers and so on. Of course, the police officers, the security, they come here before us and they leave after us, Madam Speaker, and we are grateful to them for their diligence. They have to stand while most of us sit, and they have been really exemplary in the execution of their responsibilities and duties. And of course, to the ancillary staff who provide us all the support, we want to thank you, and thank all of the public officers, Madam Speaker, who've been involved, because contrary to what many people think, that this budget is confined to the bosom of the Minister of Finance, this is not the case. It is an extensive participatory exercise, and we receive reports and suggestions from every department of government in the public service, and plus from the private sector and civil society, NGOs. And I have adopted a procedure whereby everybody in the government side, whether you sit in cabinet or not, you are able to review the budget speech and all of the policies and the programs, give your views, give your feedback, edit, remove, add. And I must thank my colleagues for the extra effort which you always put in the preparation of the budget. I simply read what they tell me to read, Madam Speaker. So I want to, they instruct me to read it, Madam Speaker, sometimes, so I have to. So I really want to thank them. They were extremely diligent, every single one of them. It was extremely diligent in the long hours of preparation. And of course, the senior public officers, particularly our ambassador and principal advisor, Mr. Lambert, who is hardly seen or hardly heard, but worked extremely hard. The financial secretary, the secretary of the cabinet, the PS of planning, the budget controller, you know, and all of the senior public officers, the various permanent secretaries, all of whom play a very critical role in the whole process. It is now our budget to implement as a country. Not only government, not only cabinet, but every one of us in the country has a responsibility to play our part. If we do not litter, we're helping the country. If we're more productive on the farm or in our offices, both in the public and private sector, we're making our contribution. If we're young people and we're diligent at school, we do well, we behave ourselves, we respect our parents and the wider community, we are making our contribution. And if we're citizens, we have to be law-abiding and minimize on the strain of the public purse. So I believe, Madam Speaker, the Lord has been good to us, and I have every reason to believe that He'll be even better to us in the 2016-2017 financial year. With this words, Madam Speaker, I want to thank you and wish you a good night. I understand you are looking forward to Fet Kaiche, and I have been told that they're bringing this year your favorite band, the Swinging Stars. So, and I have been told on that night in particular, you will be there, and I've been told that you will be piggybacking on the presence of Swinging Stars by having your own little party on your balcony overlooking so and of course, Madam Speaker, the Republic of Maho is also having its feast. They're always more extravagant than any one of us, Madam Speaker, with the leadership of Honorable Blackmore. He believes in big things, Madam Speaker, and so tomorrow morning there's the blessing of the boats. Tonight is fish night, so you can have your fish night tonight there. Midnight Groovers and Ecstasy Band and so forth and so on. You see, there you go. So, Madam Speaker, thank you. All in all, thank you, and I wish all of us a wonderful evening and an enjoyable weekend. Thank you. Madam Speaker, I move that the House be adjourned sine die.
Seconded, Madam.
It has been moved and seconded that this honorable House be adjourned sine die. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. This honorable House stands adjourned sine die.